Hey guys, if you can't tell from my backdrop, today we're going to be talking about Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel. Now this won't be my usual theory video, though I do have a theory video coming out on the latest episode of Helluva Boss. Look forward to that later on this week. Today I wanted to talk about an overlooked message that's often forgotten by the fanbase, but it's been talked about by Vizzy Pop herself quite a lot. For those of you who don't know, Vizzy Pop is the creator of both Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel, and there's a certain message that she wants to convey in the show that tends to be overlooked. Now, before I get started in this video, I want to give you guys a warning. Since we are talking about Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss, things are going to get a little PG-13. Obviously, if you've seen the content of these shows, you would know that. So I just want to give you a warning. If you're uncomfortable with that kind of conversation, you may want to click off the video. But with that out of the way, let's get started. So, Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel have a lot of messages, obviously. But one that's often misconstrued by the fan base is that people get sent to hell because of their sexuality or their sexual preferences. That's incorrect. Vizzy has gone out of her way to say no one is sent to hell because of their sexuality or their sexual choices. For example, Angel Dust isn't in hell because he has sex a lot, or because he's gay. Or for example, Vaggie didn't get sent to hell because she was a lesbian. There were different reasons. This is just commonly overlooked. Vizzy doesn't use the common Christian mythos that, you go to hell because of your sexuality. That's just something fans tend to think happens. I think a lot of that has to do with the pilot of Hazbin Hotel, when the one reporter, Katie Killjoy, says that she doesn't touch the gays. No, that's not true. And of course, Charlie's not in hell because she was gay. Charlie's in hell because she was born there. Actually, the reason Vizzy has such a focus on the sexual proclivities of the characters is for a completely different reason. It's about a message of sexual freedom and liberation. Not just being confident both in your LGBT sexuality, but being confident in who you are and what your sexuality brings you. That's actually a message that's often very much so overlooked in the Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss universe. Let me explain, okay? Take Angel Dust, for example. Angel Dust is an extremely confident character with some insecurities about his past, but his insecurities come from his, drug addiction and his violence, not towards his sexuality. In fact, when you look at Angel Dust's sexuality, he's extremely confident. In fact, he's very confident in it. He almost flaunts it to a point. Or, for example, we could look at, say, Moxie and Millie. Their relationship is so stable that they can talk about being sexually attracted to other people with no issues within their relationship. That's because those two are very confident in their sexuality, both being bisexual characters. This is a really important message that I think that people should look at more when watching Helluva Boss. But it doesn't just go there. This goes a step further, and this is where we talk a little bit more into the adult content side. But something it tackles is something that plagues, it can plague both younger and older people. Like, for example, people who want to be polyamorous. Blitzo has trouble with intimacy. He struggles with it, and that's actually something that's focused on a lot in the latest episode. Blitzo pushes away people he gets close to him and tends to switch to multiple partners. This is because Blitzo is afraid of being intimate or afraid of being judged, or it could be that Blitzo also needs love from multiple sources. Then there's the tackle of discovering that you might be a member of the LGBT when you're a lot older. Now, I came out at 14, so I don't really know about this one as much, but I know it's an important topic. So, for example, Stolas was born royalty, and he was forced into a straight relationship because of, he had to marry someone and have a child. He's a goatee, he's royalty. But he later discovered that he was not into women and that he wasn't attracted to his wife at all. And then he has to have a talk with his daughter Olivia about this when he falls in love with Blitz. This is really important because a lot of older guys tend to struggle with this. Due to the fact that we lived in a world where straight was pushed as the status quo for so long, it's hard for older people to come out when they discover that they might be part of the LGBT. They have to hide it at first, and some of them already have families before that. I've heard plenty of stories where this has happened. So it's a very important message to tackle that, Stolas, even though he was much older when he discovered his sexual proclivity or his LGBT nature, that he still was able to talk about it and that he still was able to come out. This is a message that isn't often talked about, actually, at all in media. It tends to be overlooked because a lot of people tend to think discovering your sexuality is something that only someone younger can do. But back onto the sexual freedom aspects. Now, Helluva Boss tends to focus on this, and so does Hazbin Hotel, where it's okay to be any type of sexual promiscuity as long as, of course, it's legal. Obviously, that goes without saying. Like, for example, Moxie and Millie tend to break the gender norms, where the male is the dominant and the female is the submissive. Millie is obviously the dominant in Moxie and Millie's relationship, and Moxie is obviously the submissive, hence all the jokes about, from Blitz and what we turned out to be true about the pegging stuff. That actually is something else that's really important, because not every male has to be masculine, and not every female has to be feminine. There's also the nature of relationships not having to be normal. They can be polyamorous, or you can have multiple partners. It's okay. That's always something that's often talked about and glossed over in media, which is really important, and it's something that Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel both tend to tackle. There's also just the in general stigma that sex is bad. That's something that's been kind of pushed down our throats since we were little kids. You should only have sex once you're married with someone you love and to only have kids. That's the stigma that's pushed down our throats pretty much our entire lives. I know it was pushed down my throat the entire time I was a kid, and I'm sure it hasn't changed in the years since I was younger. But Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel kind of takes that notion and flips it. They put the sexuality and the sexual exploits of the characters right in front of us. They show us that, yeah, it's not bad to have sex before marriage, or you don't have to have sex with one chosen person. And it doesn't always have to be an intimate thing. Some people actually prefer sex without intimacy, and this is actually commonly exploited in Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel. Some people prefer too, it just really depends. But the point is that the option should always be readily available, and that should be a norm in our society. Sex shouldn't be looked at as an act of only made for procreation. And Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel tackle this really well. Actually, I've been extremely excited now that I've been thinking about this, especially within the later episodes of both of Helluva Boss, and after watching the Hazbin Hotel pilot a few times. Just because someone isn't into the marriage aspects of a relationship, for example, Angel Dust, who likes multiple partners, or likes to have sex with people that he just finds attractive, that doesn't mean that Angel Dust is a bad person, obviously. This is just Angel Dust's preferred sexual preference. He doesn't like commitment, and that's okay, and that should be accepted. He shouldn't be looked at as the W word or anything like that, because society shouldn't frown upon someone who prefers to be confident in their sexual nature. And I think that's an important message that Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel tends to push. Same with Moxie and Millie. Obviously, they're very confident in each other's sexual natures, so much so that they'll even display it during battle, and they're confident to talk about other people while they're in a relationship. That's obviously something society would normally frown upon, but it should be accepted. Or look at Stolas and Blitz. There are two people still trying to find themselves and find their nature, and they're confident to talk about it and bring it up in public, even though there's obviously a class difference between the two. They don't let that define them. I think that this message of sexual freedom is incredibly important and something that's often overlooked in these shows, because when it comes to the concept and topic, as a society, sex is pretty much, both sex is in the act of sex, and sex is in the gender choices, and of course, the LGBT choices, have always been pushed back to where it's no, you're supposed to marry someone of the same gender, and you only have sex after marriage, and you should only do it to procreate. That is actually not true, and that's a fucked up notion to look at. And Helluva Boss takes that notion and, tosses it in a fire and says, hey, no, fuck you, we can do whatever we want. Literally, whoever we want, whenever we want. And Vizzy's often stressed that in interviews, that she thinks that the notion that sex is only exists for intimacy and procreation as something that's kind of gross and outdated, and I agree. It's an outdated terminology. It's, as long as it's legal, it shouldn't bother you what someone does. If someone has multiple partners, or someone doesn't want to be intimate, or someone is intimate, it shouldn't bother you. Take Alistair, for example. He's an extremely attractive character, and obviously there are plenty of characters who would lust after him in the show, including Angel does, but Alistair's asexual. He doesn't want to have sex. And that's fine too. We should be able to accept all of these notions, and that sexuality has changed. The definition of it has changed since the age of our great grandparents or whatever the fuck. There's where they got married at like 15 and were like having 10 kids. Like, it shouldn't be like that anymore. We should be able to look at the characters in Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel and realize, well, they're not in hell because of their sexual promiscuity. They're there because of other reasons. But we can respect the fact that they are truly free. And I think that that's an important plot point. Truly free to do whatever they want. They're not letting society judge what they're doing as a sin. They're just living their lives and enjoying them truly. Now, obviously the murder and stuff is a different story. But Busy has gone on to say that the murder and obviously the drugs and stuff like that is a completely different thing from this message. And I just wanted to bring this up because I felt like it was something that should be talked about. And I wanted to get your guys' opinion on if you've ever thought about this while watching the show at all. And it's a short video, I know, but it's sort of a freelance, unscripted video. But just let me know what you guys think. And as always, I'm Ashi, signing out. Also, please subscribe to the new channel, Goddess Ashi's Realm. I'm not posting on the Final Bosses channel anymore. Alright guys, Ashi signing out.